How much does a Gangstalker actually make? I stumbled into this sort of question when I had people following me and I was experiencing all sorts of strange events for an extended period of time, and they just were not going away. And I started asking myself if these people are really being paid or if they're just doing this as a hobby, and definitely not. So it looks like it's a career option for them. It looks like they're actually getting paid. Um, so there are no official numbers. I mean, it's going to be difficult when you're dealing with anything which is a bit shady and a bit criminal or underground. And the fact that every network might be running a different kind of scheme. So there are different levels of involvement in gang stalking or organized stalking. What I'm interested in is the full-time perps that are doing the full range of attacks, from spreading rumors to lying to sort of the guys who are actually there 24 hours a day, sort of doing the work. Um, then occasionally there are some stalkers that you meet in real life. Every now and then you bump into a couple of people that you know are not your friends, but you know they're following you. And then, of course, gang stalking has got to drag the general public. Like everybody has got to be involved. All your friends, um, everybody has got to be lied to and has got to be sort of told a rumor or some kind of campaign to discredit you, to destroy your image. Um, so again, nobody's going to do all of this work for nothing. A perpetrator isn't going to sit for 24 hours a day, or to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is that they're doing in the morning, any time of the day. And it looks like they're actually taking shifts. I mean, it's just not physically possible to be working working that hard, always seeming to have a lot of energy, and it's definitely for money. Nobody's is not going to just work for nothing. Typically, what they do is, this would be almost like their job description. The first thing is that they obviously go around spreading lies and rumors, and this puts imagine going and lying to somebody else's friend and showing them a compromising picture or video footage or anything like that. So you wouldn't it's bad news that you're bringing. You're spreading negativity. You wouldn't do that for nothing. Going, picking up the phone, calling somebody, or going on social media, posting stuff. So that sounds like it's a job. It's a work activity. The other one is hacking into communications, typically phone calls, misdirecting them, or even logging into email accounts, logging into bank statements, um, basically hacking, you know, continuously so that you can sabotage the guy's life, and then constantly spying and watching the victim all the time, every second, so that the guy doesn't get a break, the guy doesn't get a minute or a second to breathe. Um, and I think on a more serious note, carrying out voice to skull, just the perpetrators are always there all the time talking, carrying out skits, or I guess it takes time to prepare those skits. It takes time to compile a list of those lies that they tell you, and then, I mean, ultimately they're doing damage, and they damaging different parts of the body, and they're doing a crime. So nobody's gonna do all of this work, which is not good, which is not above the floor, which is not, you're trading your integrity for money ultimately. So there's got to be a good price that you're going to be prepared to accept as a perpetrator. So how much is it? So I've made a couple of assumptions. I mean, again, there's no real figures. There's no sort of definitive amount. I've assumed that one victim has got about 6 perps a day, and at any given shift, there could be 3 shifts in a day. They work about 8 hours, and then there's always 2 perps working. Exchanging talks, mostly doing voice to skull work, and then they work all the time. They work 365 days a year. Pretty much, they work for you don't get a day's break. They're working 24 hours a day the entire year, and sort of these would be like almost the bare minimum. There could be more perpetrators. There could be maybe 3 per shift, or there could be um, you know maybe 4 or more others that are doing other stuff in real life other than just doing voice to skull. So the question again is, how much do they actually make? Um, I mean, we start off with the sort of base, most bare minimum, which is $1 per hour that you would want to earn, which means you're going to be making 8 hours per day if you're working an 8 hour shift. And in a year, you're going to be making just about $240. And so, is this going to be enough? I mean, it's just about $3,000 per year. It's you're doing this trouble. You're going through a lot of trouble as a perpetrator, and would this amount be enough? And the answer is probably no. It's more like $5 would be the minimum, and then if you're earning $5 an hour, you're probably making a good $1,200 per month, um, which is a bit of a step up, but it's still not enough. It's still you're ultimately killing a human being. You're ultimately destroying somebody else's life. So for $5, it's assassination. I mean, it's you're like a slow assassination or a slow kill campaign, which you're probably not gonna do it for like $5 an hour. Maybe on average about $10 an hour. I mean, perpetrators are earning different amounts. Um, so a day it works out to about $80 an hour, and then per month it comes to about $2,400, which is almost like a working job now, which is almost like a decent, well-respected job. Um, so I mean, just to go through the ranges again, if they're earning about a dollar an hour, it's too little. If they're making about $5 an hour, that would be for like a very, very desperate person who's got nothing else and is willing to practically sell their soul to the devil for like the cheapest amount. It's still 1,200 rands per month, but a realistic minimum, we're gonna stick with about $10 an hour. Um, in practice, I mean, the perpetrators almost like, they're changing hours. They don't. I don't think they work 8-hour shifts strictly. So maybe some of them it might be 12 hours, or some of them might be 6 hours with more shifts. And also perpetrators come and go. Maybe some of them might only try this thing out for a month or a week and then go, no, I don't feel comfortable with this sort of thing. They lose interest maybe after 6 months. But the point is that the system, as long as there's money, as long as you can pay somebody, an amount that they prepared to risk, there's never ever going to be a shortage of perpetrators to carry out their attacks. So if we take all costs into consideration, besides just paying these guys, uh, it comes down to how much does the network or whoever is paying these perpetrators, how much is he actually paying per annum, per year? How much does it actually cost him to run the entire campaign? Um, so we got to stick with the average of about $10 an hour, which is a reasonable amount. Taking into consideration that some perps might earn more than others, maybe it might be like others earn double and others sort of earn half. Um, so again, 6 perpetrators per day taking shifts. Um, if you were to do the calculation, it works out to about $30,000 per annum, for just only paying the perpetrators. And then obviously there's going to be more costs than that. These guys have got to make phone calls. They've got to be on the internet researching. They've got to be following, stalking the guy. If the victim is traveling, they've got to actually follow him around. And then there's also bribing other members of society. I mean, imagine trying to bribe somebody like a lawyer or a police. So you've got to pay a little bit extra. So you assume, let's stick with an average of about $1,000 per month just to carry out the bribes. So in a year, it's going to be about $12,000 for all the other extra costs. So per victim, you end up spending roughly $42,000 just to stalk one victim. Okay. So you're not just going to stalk the guy for 1 year and then it's over, it's finished. The guy walks away scot-free. Most victims actually complain and they confess that they've been stalked for over 5 years or close to 10 years. So over 5 years, the total cost would have been about $210,000, which is quite a significant amount of money. And over 10 years, it's obviously a lot more. And then, how much return on investment are you wanting to get out of this whole thing? As if you're running this, when you're obviously pouring money, you're not just pouring money down the drain. I mean, it could be anything. I would think 50% return on investment over 5 years would be a fair amount. So if you're making 50% profit, that would give you around about $100,000 that you make over 5 years as a business, which is not bad. And over 10 years, okay, then your revenue would have to be about $315,000 in a period of 5 years. So, I mean, the point of this, I mean, it's all approximate figures. It's not, it's going to always be difficult to get the real figures and the real numbers. It's all a underground type of business. But the point being, it's a very business operation to try and run. It's still a criminal, it's still obviously what these people are doing is wrong. But the person who's doing this, the networks or the perpetrators, it's all in it for somebody. It's all something. There's something to gain, and it's always going to be money being the driving force, money being the driving factor behind this sort of evil.